Good morning and thanks for joining us. I am Iori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. Okay, so there we have it on the, international scene, so to speak, regional scene. Nigeria's President Tinubu has been re-elected for a further one-year term. This is no doubt so that he can, further oversee initiatives that were put forward in his time, and in any case, his peers voted him. It's not the first time that it has happened. Twice, where two presidents taking an extra term. But here we are. Our guest this morning, we'll also be talking with our guest this morning, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba in our Abuja studio. We'll also be chatting with the ambassador about Nigeria's Samoa deal and the sparks that it has made amidst the whole LGBTQ concerns. The Minister of Information has said there's nothing like that. We'll be hearing from the ambassador. So a fine morning to you, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba.
A very good morning to you, Uncle Yuri. It's my pleasure being on your studio once again.
We're delighted to have you, sir. Okay, now first of all, let's start off with the re-election of President Tinubu by his peers. One, he put himself forward for the election. It is so that we hear that it can happen like that. So I'll come back and speak to you about that. But let's first of all put a package out there before we can, start the conversation.
Authority of Heads of State and Government at a closed-door meeting elected President Bola Tinubu to continue as the chair of the authority, which he accepts. President of Senegal was also given a mandate to mediate between ECOWAS and the three withdrawing countries. At the end of the session, the president of the ECOWAS Commission spoke with journalists on the resolution of the authority on funding of the activation of the standby force.
The experts from our Ministries of Finance will convene within the next 3 months to decide and to assess the various possibilities of raising internal resources to fund the peace and security operations that the community will undertake. There is no specific formula yet. Let us wait for the outcome of the expert consultation.
He also spoke about the state of the eco currency of the region and other issues.
Time frame given for the launch of the single currency is 2027, provided the various convergence criteria are met. The challenge is meeting those convergence criteria, and the member states are encouraged to work on those criteria. So the time frame for now is 2027, and until the heads of state change that time frame, we will go by that.
On humanitarian efforts, the president says ECOWAS has made a provision of about $9 million to support displaced people in the region and another $4 million to support countries hosting some of the displaced persons. Moyo Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, thank you very much, Moya. So, as you could see, there were other issues that were discussed, but I imagine that principle among them would have been the re-election of President Tinubu by his peers to chair the authorities of the participating countries. Okay, Ambassador Elijah, any surprise there? Because I was reading that usually this kind of a thing happens if there's agreement of peers and if the person whose election is to be, how do they put it now, to be extended or to be repeated, it'll be because he did make the request. So in the first instance, our president did put himself in there first?
Not very clear if it was his decision to seek for re-elections. But whatever be the case, I think I will start first of all by congratulating the president for being re-elected into that position once again. The first election was on 9th July 2023. in Guinea-Bissau in the wake of the coup d'etats, within the Sahel states, even very close to us, our neighbors here, Niger, and you must say that the presidency, the leadership of Mr. President took off, within the sub-region on a very rocky start, So it was about providing leadership and finding a way of addressing the challenges within the sub-region. And of course, you know that the prime pillar, one of the prime pillars of the president's foreign policy is democracy, and Nigeria's support for democracy across the world, and of course starting from our region. And he had taken that mantle of leadership at that time. And there was also a special envoy that was appointed at the time, which is the president of Togo, President Nassimbe Yadema, to negotiate with these countries that have this coup d'etat. And that, if you begin to access what has happened, yes, there were sanctions that were placed on the countries. Yes, they responded by saying that they were pulling out of ECOWAS and having their own Confederation of Sahel States, which is what they've done. ECOWAS actually pulled back on the sanctions, and then after a couple of consultations with the leaders. And at this point in time, invitations have been sent out to them, but we must also note that the decision of the three presidents, or the three nations that had coup d'etat, that's that of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, were actually against the provisions of the ECOWAS protocol, which gave a certain timeline for you to be able to pull out, and the responsibilities that you must still carry even within the same period that you had given notice. Of course, ECOWAS, responded by lifting the sanctions and then, of course, extending invitations to these countries. It remains to be seen what their position is, but of course, we had in the news that they had gone ahead to sign, the agreement that will allow the three of them form a confederation. Of course, at this point in time, we've always believed that it has to be politics, it has to be diplomacy, it has to be dialogue that can resolve these kind of issues, because these have become a political problem. And upon President Tinubu's re-election yesterday, I believe that the idea behind it is because it's also done relatively well, creating stability and, of course, providing direction on how to manage these issues from when they started up until now. So credit must be given to the president. And I believe that his colleagues would have looked at the issues and felt like there would be a need to continue in that line. And that's probably the reason why they would have consented. It doesn't even matter, even if he had said even if it was himself that put himself up for re-election, if his colleagues obviously didn't think, because remember that ordinarily these things are, the presidency of that position moves between the Anglophone and the Francophones. So the expectation originally is that it's supposed to actually go to one of the Francophone countries. But of course, the leaders, rightly made a decision to ask President Tinubu to continue. It's actually an indication of responsibility that he has also done well. And of course, so many things that he has started, they expect him to drive to a logical conclusion. Indeed.
And he should be given the chance to oversee it. Well, when you look at it, as you put it, the president, in steering the group, he's received much commendation, but for the fact that he has emphasized democracy and security. In fact, his insistence on democracy probably, led into some sort of sticky paths, but nevertheless, the president knew, when to sort of, chill a bit, to say in undiplomatic language, and things were reverted. Even as we speak, you just mentioned the president of Togo. I believe that he and the newly elected president of Senegal, have been appointed as special envoys by the president to further broker peace and see what could be done to bringing those brother countries, is it sister country now? Countries seem to take the pronoun of a woman. Those are other countries in Africa back into the fold.
Yes, I think what has happened is a step in the right direction. At this point in time, you remember, because it's important to understand what has happened in the course of the first tenure of Mr. President. Yes, these coups happened, but then again, there were also progress that was also made and witnessed within the sub-region. And a very clear example, two of them are the elections in Senegal, where the president had actually wanted to perpetuate himself to power and to conduct elections somewhere, I think December 16th or thereabouts. But there was pressure. The institutions of the country, particularly the Supreme Court, made a decision. The president also, as the leader within the continent, also sent envoys to Senegal to ensure that there is an election which brought forth the new president, President Faye. And of course, there is no better person that can lead this charge, the dialogue and the conversation at this point in time, than him, who has just been elected, a democratic president, in Senegal. Remember, Senegal is one of the countries that is yet to witness a military coup within the sub-region. So yes, that in itself, the president actually asked our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Tuga, to actually work with him in that dialogue and then let us see what happens from there. Because what it means is that ECOWAS is still having an open door. They still have an open door of negotiation. They still, they will still do whatever they need to do to ensure that these countries are able to come back, because it's actually in everybody's interest that they come back. So what has also happened, again, within that same time frame, is that there was also an election which was also which took place in Liberia. A very good example, a sitting president, John Ware, Ware lost the election, and then, of course, had to help. He did a lot in ensuring that there was a smooth handover from one democratic, government to another. There was also an attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau, where the president also stepped in and sent envoy to be able to assure the country of Nigeria's support. So clearly, within this period, yes, we've witnessed this, coup d'etats. Remember, ECOWAS is 15 member states, and 3 of them have, were the ones that pulled out. But there's actually a 4th one, which is Guinea-Conakry, that also has had a coup, but they actually didn't pull out from ECOWAS. And we must also have the patience to go back and understand the real issues. The real issues is that when political leaders begin to amend the constitution to be able to perpetuate themselves in power, that's actually what you can refer to as a civilian coup. That's actually why when you see these coups happen, people begin to think that that's a reprieve. People begin to, support it, quote and unquote, initial support, which obviously down the line, you will find out that, it's not as good as what they thought, because, you begin to look at issues of human rights. You begin to look at issues of right of expression. You begin to look at several other issues that will always come up. Which is the reason why the president has made it very clear that there will always be a support, because no matter how bad democracy is, it can actually not, not be compared to autocracy. So clearly, from all indications, it's very clear that there were progresses that were made in the last 1 year, and that's probably the reason why other member states have asked the president to continue to put that leadership. And the president has actually selected a new person who is just a new president, President Faye from Senegal, to say lead this cause on behalf of ECOWAS, work with our Foreign Affairs Minister, Ambassador Tuga, and then report both to the ECOWAS Commission as well as to the president on what is going on. And, it's what the president has done is to ensure that the horse has been taken to the stream. So whether or not the horse drinks the water is a different kettle of fish, altogether. But the horse is already there. There's a horse and there's a stream. So we are hoping that our brothers will reconsider their position and, of course, understand the challenges that are there. When Brexit happened, when the UK pulled out of the European Union, what it meant was that even the UK citizens that were working in Brussels, in European Union Commission, had to, they had to all pull out and get back to their countries. Nigeria, Abuja here hosts, ECOWAS Commission. The secretariat is here in Abuja. There are citizens of Niger Republic that are staffers there. There are citizens of Burkina Faso and Mali that are staffers there. So some of the long-term implications of these are some of the things that we believe that the presidents of these countries will consider because the region is better united. The region, once we come together, it means that we can do a lot within ourselves. Yes, I agree with the fact that there is a lot of challenges here and there, but it's actually the responsibility of political leaders within the sub-region to show leadership. The idea of amending the constitution to be able to ensure that you're in power for as long as possible should no longer. ECOWAS must have zero tolerance to country presidents that keep on amending constitution to be able to perpetuate themselves in power. And that's where the problem starts from. That's why we have issues of climate change. That's why we have economic issues, because, of course, you know that our region is one of the poorest within the world. That's why we have our young people that are constantly migrating, because, quite a lot of them are migrating through the Sahel, and some of them are dying in the high sea, day in, day out. So clearly, the political leadership within the sub-region must do what they need to do, which is to provide governance. And in provision of governance, we are expected to have dividends of democracy. And once people begin to have dividends of democracy, I believe that that is actually the essence of having the commission, because it's actually an economic community, which means that there should actually be economic benefits that are coming to the citizens of the sub-region.
And maybe that brings us to the issue of the fight against terrorism. The president, the chairman of ECOWAS, our president, two offices, the same person, he believes that we as a body, as a group, as a bloc, have to finance the wherewithal to be able to withstand and pull off the putting down of all these fires, these insurgency fires that we see all over, these terrorism. I don't know how well do you think that's going to, because when he himself said that there's a shortage of funds, and he's well aware of it, but he still says we have the obligation to pay our dues to ECOWAS, and I don't know if you think that is, but just before I land on that and get your commentary on that, let me take a caller that has come in. Good morning, Mr. George in Ikeja.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to the young ambassador.
Okay.
Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Uncle Yori, I would have been surprised if the ECOWAS heads of state did not re-elect the president. Because as soon as he came in, he brought life into the community. And you see how democracy became the norm in the talk around ECOWAS. That didn't happen before. And for it to sustain for another 1 year is a wise decision they are taking. So I wish them luck.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, I want to ask the ambassador this question about this raging controversy on Samoa agreement.
We're going to come to it. I assure you. I said it at the top of the program. We're going to come to it.
Okay,
but let's come out of this, and then we'll come to that whole Nigeria-Samoa, deal.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. So I was asking you about the president, admonishing, the region that we need to be up to scratch with our dues to ECOWAS. When there's money involved, is there sometimes a foot dragging as well?
Well, thank you. Again, this is where leadership has to come in, because the challenge with the commission is not just about introducing a standby force. The issue is about funding. And it's also about priority as well. Nigeria even has been owing, and of course, one good news that came out of this meeting yesterday was that Nigeria committed to pay its outstanding debts, which is the ECOWAS.
It said it was going to lead by example.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And quite a lot of countries haven't been paid. If you follow what has been going on, countries like Cape Verde haven't paid for a very, very long time. I'm not even sure if they've ever paid at all. So clearly, it's about funding. But I also think that we need to be a bit careful as well, because, if you go back to where we had the ECOMOG, it's always a system where this thing starts, and of course, the secretariat is here in Nigeria, then it becomes a Nigeria responsibility. Most of the countries won't do what they are supposed to do. But clearly, democracy and security were the issues that the president was driving at. And clearly, I understand the need, because having a standby force is clearly to ensure that wherever we have issues, this standby force can actually step in and find a way to, bring some level of sanity around that region. But I also think that we need to tread very cautiously. As a nation, we have got quite a lot of issues that we're dealing with at this point in time. We have a lot of economic challenges that we are focusing on, just trying to get our acts together. So I think, the wise decision is to, first of all, pay up debts. And if the funding that is available can carry out, can carry the activities of having a standby force that can always step in the event whenever there's a need for that to happen, then that's fine. But honestly, from the point of view of the president, there's a need to have that because when, insurgency, this is also one of the most terrorized sub-region in the world as of today. So there is a need for us to have some high degree of preparedness in responding to these issues. It's not just when they happen, you begin to respond. Sometimes it's good to prepare ahead of time and wait, but again, it's a matter of priority, and I believe that we must ensure that we are not overstretching ourselves. We must ensure that whatever we are doing, and there's no better person to take that decision than Mr. President, and ensuring that we are not, stretching even our military. There must be something we can do to continue to ensure that whenever the need for this arises, that there will actually be some level of responses that will come from all of the countries, not just a Nigerian thing. Let it not just be that it's Nigeria again, Nigeria forces, Nigeria funding, etc., etc.
Okay. Sani Adenuga in Port Harcourt. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to the ambassador.
Thank you very much, Mr.
First and foremost, I would like to say congratulations to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his re-election as ECOWAS chair. However, it also needs to be stated that the fact that the president avoided conflict, especially with our nearest neighbors, I think in this ECOWAS time of his, I think he has made a great effort. And that needs to be really emphasized because, for instance, again, we have Nigerians who are our cousins, our brothers, who are relations in this part of the country. Part of Nigeria, the time there was supposed to be heightened tension. Of course, this is understood. I don't happening somewhere. It's a very difficult balance, but we need to say a big word unto him for avoiding conflict with our nearest neighbor, and we hope that in the next 1 year and going forward, future leaders will take example from that and we look inward rather than prioritizing interests of international parties who have their own interests beyond our own. And I think that's what I would say at this point in time. Wish him all the best and good health as we get on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sani Adenuga, calling in. Sani Adenuga is chairman of BOOP's political party in Nigeria. Ambassador, I think I should take a break now, but we'll be right back and we'll continue the conversation.